200. 110.
The course is 110, but most of you are at least juniors, aren't you? Is there anybody who's not at junior status yet? Besides our graduate assistants?
Most everybody. Makes sense.
Okay, so we'll give them credit for at least being sophomores since I saw about 6.
Most freshmen, so I was gonna say 100 levels, mostly freshman and sophomore, right? Yeah. So we're gonna make this real easy. First off, hello, my name is Brad Gray. I am a graduate of Ball State University by way of Ben Davis High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'll take no jabs from anybody that went to any other high school in the area. I was here from 2007 to 2011, graduated in 2011 with a degree in telecommunications, which I don't know if that exists still.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, that's disheartening.
It's just media.
Just media. Yeah. Well, good for y'all. Obviously doesn't mean the same thing for me in this type of job market. So, graduated TCOM, had a news focus. We had different focuses that you could take, from news to production to audio engineering to things like that. So I was always a news guy. Graduated. We'll get to this later, but didn't get a job when I first graduated. Took a little while. Worked some retail jobs. A place that's now defunct. It was probably around when none of you were alive. Anybody ever shop at H.H. Gregg? Ever heard of H.H. Gregg?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I used to slang TVs at H.H. Gregg. Then I got my first job at the ABC affiliate in Indianapolis called WRTV, which is another story we'll get to. I left the industry for about a year and pursued teaching, actually, at Ben Davis. Taught the media class. Then I wanted to get back in. Was able to get a job in Atlanta, Georgia as a producer. I was there for about 4.5, 5 years. Then went up to Chicago, worked in Chicago at a startup for 2 years. Now I'm back in Indianapolis in my role as Director of Innovation at WTHR, which will be 3 years in July. So that's my journey. This has always been what I wanted to do. News, production, media, from a young age, I had an opportunity to get my hands on camera equipment and audio stuff and editing and all that at the church that I went to in Indianapolis. We actually had a summer media camp that our pastor put on that would allow us to shoot PSAs and short movies and a lot of goofy stuff and all that. So getting your hands on equipment as fast as possible, which for you guys is a totally different idea because you don't look at production the way I do. Production was teams, crews, 4, 5, 6 people. Production for you is one, right? So it's a totally different landscape now, and it's evolved. And I'm older than y'all, but I'm not that much older than y'all. None of y'all can be my kids, right? So, it's one of those. So it's not the time frame from which I left here to where it is today. It's a totally different landscape. I promise you, all these things that I'm talking about, we're going to hit on a couple different. That's a little bit about me. I know Dr. Maria told me that there are a lot of questions, and typically I'll come up here and I'll talk a lot. Today I'm not going to do that. Today I want to share just a few quick things, few hit points that I can do, and then I want to hear from y'all because I obviously don't want to talk about things y'all don't want to talk about. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. So the first thing I need is a volunteer by show of hands. First hand was back.
Yes.
Slide up. All right. First off, everybody raise your hand. Again, can you raise your hand? Just real quick.
I forgot to tell you one thing. For every press conference, when you stand up and talk to Brad or whoever your press conference speaker is, you need to identify yourself by name. That will be very important when you go to real press conferences in the workplace, because if they remember your name, they're more than likely to call on you more frequently at additional settings. So I want you to start now. Let Brad know who you are, And if you sound good, he might jot your name down and say, oh, there's somebody I need to hire. So give him your name so that he'll know who to remember.
Those hands that went up, let me see those hands again. So. Okay, what's your name?
Rowan.
Rowan, Brad, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Rowan, you were the first hand that I saw.
Yep.
And for being the first hand that I saw and being the first volunteer, I'm going to give you whatever money I had on you.
That happened last time, too, I forgot to tell you.
All I have is $10. Sorry about that, but $10 is yours.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely positive. That's yours.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rowan.
That's all, thank you.
Yeah. I hope that's lunch for you. I don't know. I don't even know if y'all take cash anymore. Like, do they have like cashless banks? Okay, all right, well, as long as they still take something. Two things on that. One, this is the first time I've done that and more than like 2 people raised their hand. So that's already a real boost, right? That's showing that you guys are attentive, that's showing that you guys are engaged, that's showing that you guys want to learn and you want to do something, right? That is the main thing, that's one of the main things that's going to help you succeed in whatever you decide to do, whether that's media, life, whatever. The reason why Rowan got $10 is because there's always a lesson in going first. There's always a lesson in going first. Whether or not you succeed, you're going to fail faster than the person that didn't try, right? Or you're going to get something quicker than the person that didn't go first, right? So, try to go after the person that goes first, right? You get to set the tone. So at the end of the day, now if I ask for a volunteer, everyone's going to be expecting $10, but you set the market, right? So at the end of the day, nobody's going to get the $10 that he got, but you might get 20, you might get 50, you might get 0. You never know if you don't go first, right? You don't know if you don't go. So always keep in mind that if you have an opportunity to be first, to ask the question first, to show your face first, take it. A lot of people are really, really shy. You guys are coming into your own, you're coming into your own personalities, you pretty much just finished your growth spurts and all that, so like you just getting facial hair on your face and all that. You know what I mean? Like it is uncomfortable at the beginning to feel confident in raising your hand. It's uncomfortable to step out on faith and say, okay, I want to attempt whatever is coming up, right? But that's exactly what each and every one of you are going to have to do because of how fast this world is evolving. The media landscape every single day is changing. Every single day we're going further and further away from linear. We're going more and more to streaming, non-linear, podcasts, any level of, we obviously have all seen what happened in the election. We heard all of the narrative about the new media. The new media does not include things that you're learning about, right? If at the end of the day, if we're talking about esteemed journalists versus critiquer, I don't even know what word to use, just like a contributor, right? Like there's no difference. There's no difference between someone that works for NBC and somebody who is just a loudmouth on X. There's no difference between a Twitch streamer and a paid author. Like these are starting to become one and the same as far as what level we look at them or how we take their credibility. One of the things that I learned a lot, especially in my time in college, was that credibility is all you have, right? Sources and sources and sources and checking and checking and checking and verifying and verifying and verifying. Is that a Mark Twain quote that's if your mother tells you you love her, if your mother tells you she loves you, double check the, or was it double check the source or something like that, right? Like that's what we were taught. That's not necessarily the world you're going to grow up in, right? So as that evolution continues, it's going to be up to you guys to fail fast to understand what works and what doesn't, depending on what you want to do. Many of you probably going to want to go into sports, right? Sports media landscape, complete difference, right? You can have a TikTok right now and be more credible than the top people on ESPN, right? And why is that? Anybody got that's open-ended. It's not historical. Why would it be that you and your TikTok and your knowledge would maybe have more credence or more credibility amongst you than Stephen A. Smith?
I think it's because we already have TikTok, so it's just like one of the first things we're gonna see. Like people in our generation is probably more likely to see something on TikTok than to watch the news, unfortunately. So because we already see it, and especially if we see it multiple times, we're just gonna think that that's the information that's true, rather than double check our sources.
That's good.
I think sources are a lot easier to access than before. I also think with ESPN you have big name personalities like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, and there are some times where profit is in mind, and because it's all opinionated content, they might not necessarily align with the opinion of the public, because then that generates more viewers, so they may not seem as credible as someone that's delivering straight facts on TikTok.
I like that. I'm gonna come back to you. Just because Dr. Maria says something, if I call on you, please state your name,
Thank
then
you.
answer. I got you. No, I got you.
See,
I've done
even
this
when
before.
you're gone, you can still hear me.
I'm trying to, no, because both of those answers are great. I just want to help you out with the credit, because that's what she said. You know what I mean? That's it. Anybody else? Any other comments?
Vivian Bostic. The general public watches ESPN and we're watching these sports games. So what better way to hear from what the general public thinks than from the general public?
Go ahead.
Lauren Burris. I also think it's like a time thing too. When you're seeing it on TikTok, it's fast paced and people are very impatient nowadays. Like, and especially like the age group that watches TikTok. So instead of sitting and watching a long ESPN interview, you can sit there and watch a 60-second TikTok thing that you may think is true.
You know, it's funny, man. The media be trying to tell me that y'all not smart. They tell me that y'all not smart. Y'all smart. Hey, I know what y'all talking about. Like, some of the things that you guys these answers are, and all of them, absolutely, right? But one of the things I want to harp on that balances the playing field. The word it's a word that we used to use in news to describe news values, right? There are 7 news values, like prominence, novelty, impact, I can't remember them all. But there's one.
Sheet in front of them.
You said what? Oh, conflict.
Sheet in front
Oh,
of
you guys have
them.
a sheet. Oh, yeah, okay. But there's one very specific that is used as a news value, but you guys are using it now in the evolution of media, and it's proximity. Proximity is the closeness that you have to the subject, right? It's in news, the way we look at it is, let's just say that there was a police shooting that happened on McGalliard. You're going to go cover it because it's close. It's right down the street, right? It's on McGalliard, right across the street from the Best Buy. I'm only saying that because as I was driving in, somebody almost hit a cop car, and I thought there was going to be a police shooting. Okay, didn't happen. They pulled a girl. I think she's one of y'all students too. She was speed. She was flying. So, cop catches her, pulls her over or whatever, right? If you were to cover that, you cover it because it's close. It's close to the campus. You describe it as half a mile away from the campus, right? If you're doing it as a news story. But for you in your landscape, proximity is not about the closeness as far as location. It's the closeness as far as how close am I to touching this person. When you're talking about someone on TikTok, you literally can be sitting next to that person right now. You have no access to Pat McAfee. None of you do, right? Anybody? I don't want to. You have no access to Pat McAfee. You have no access to Stephen A. Smith. So why would you trust somebody that you have no access to when you could trust somebody that you do? You've heard, you've listened, you've shared banter. You have an actual opportunity to talk to said person. You can interact with these people. That's what made TikTok the level playing ground that it is, that it completely slashes what we do in news media. Most of your social sites like TikTok, X, Facebook, you know, whatever you're using, Twitch especially, you're interacting with the subject. That's proximity. The closer you are to the subject, right, the more profitable it's going to be. If you've noticed, especially because you said maybe it seems like not all of their interests are genuine, sometimes it's profit-based. Why is it? Because you have to now find a way to interact. ESPN is such a different landscape today than what it was 10, 15 years ago. And to your point about storytelling, ESPN used to do really, really great storytelling. There was a whole show called The Sports Reporters, where they would just be on a panel, be people like Bob Lay, Jason Whitlock, Jamel Hill, people that now you listen to and you're like, man, they're like way on this spectrum of whatever. No, these people used to be pretty common sense. You know, what John Saunders, like they were all pretty common sense. Everything sounded legit. And what happened was, those people became unapproachable. They become unavailable. And that creates the rise of the content creator. The content creator is always available and always willing to talk and always willing to interact and engage with you. That's what you guys have to your benefit. That's the evolution that we're seeing in news. That's what my bosses are deathly afraid of. Dr. Marina says, I might be able to give y'all jobs. I'm hoping that I'll still have a job when y'all graduate. I'm being as transparent as possible. Our industry is changing. You're not watching, you don't consume news like that. You consume news as quick and as easy and as, you know, fast as possible. And you look for things that confirm what you feel. It's the not confirmation bias, but you look for things that confirm how you feel. Your algorithms are going to confirm your thoughts, because if you like a video that, hey, you know what? This person says Lamar Jackson deserves the MVP. I'm going to like that. And then 2 videos later, another video says Lamar Jackson for MVP, and I'm going to like that. And then you're going to get so many of those that you'll pass all the ones that say Josh Allen for MVP, right? Your position has been set based on your algorithm. You all see where a danger in that is?
Echo chambers.
Exactly. All of a sudden, okay, if I hear one very specific point on a political topic, if I hear one very specific point on a city, all I get is negative things about Indianapolis. What am I going to hear positive? Will I ever want to move to Indianapolis? If I hear, what about Chicago? Gang violence, gun violence, Chicago. I live in Chicago. I'm the safest place I've ever been in my life. Love Chicago. Maybe not safest. Still, love Chicago. But based on what you consume, might create the feeling that it's not so safe. Maybe you shouldn't take the train to the Cubs game. I don't know. I think you should. So, anyway. That was kind of a long talking point. The only other thing that I was just going to say, and I wanted to come back to it, was when I said fail fast. You guys are in the generation where you're going to have to fail fast. If you got an idea, and when I say fail fast, like, does that make anybody feel like, oh no, I stink because I lost, I didn't get it, whatever? I hope not. Failing fast is the only way you'll succeed. You need to know what doesn't work so you can get to what does. If you have an idea, for some content that you want to shoot, do it. Get it out. Post it somewhere. See what happens. Did it work? Yes. Do it again. Did it not work? Back to the drawing board. Try it over. But you know, if you know what you have is a good piece of content, you know what you have is something, this is what the streets need right now, right? Do it, and do it well, and do it over again, do it over again, do it over again, do it over again. it's only going to get you to the place where you want it to get you if you try. Because you leave that idea stuck in your head, it's going to be there forever and ever and ever, and nobody's going to get whatever you're talking about, right? So fail as fast as possible. You're going to be taking the place of people in my generation who were taught a totally different mantra, which is that you had to be perfect. Dr. Maria, when I graduated, you know how many tapes I sent out? Resume tapes, and not, when I say tapes, I don't mean like recorded or a YouTube link or whatever. I mean physical tapes for sports reporter jobs. I ain't got no money, but I want somebody to guess how many tapes went out to jobs.
30. I'm gonna go 40.
Okay. What else?
46.
46.
75.
I think, well, that's fine.
I'm thinking 10.
Anybody else?
150?
90?
32.
Actually, you actually went over, but you're the closest. It's up 115 tapes. My own money, my own time in the old lab, right? And 115 tapes for 0 jobs, 0 interviews. Not even a no. I'm not even getting responses back. I'm sending tapes to Walla Walla, Washington. I'm sending tapes to Butte, Montana. I'm trying to go. I'll go to Alaska. I'll go to Meridian, Mississippi. I'll make the minimum wage to go out there just to shoot sports because that's what I love and that's what I wanted to do. I was so prepared. And the thing is that it's not that I was trash. The worst part about it is that at the end of the day, not to toot my own horn, I was one of the first black anchors on Newslink as a freshman, right? I did sports, weather, anchored. I was NABJ president here for 3 years. I was part of the TCOM Student Advisory Council from a freshman on. I'm talking about resumes that most people, I won't even say most, nearly all people could not touch. And I was good on air. And I couldn't get a call back. So perfection is something that was drilled into my head from the get-go, and I couldn't even get that out the door to find a way to be on air, right? I couldn't get my foot in. That's how I ended up at H.A. Craig. Probably sold your mama a TV. You know? But it happens. I got an internship at RTV. I did an internship in Fort Wayne. And because of that internship is actually how I ended up getting my job at Channel 6, because I was actually at a Ball State event. Yeah, I was at a Ball State event at Circle Center Mall in Indianapolis. I was walking to my car to go to H.H. Gregg. I was switching one red shirt for another. And I'm getting on the elevator door shutting. Someone holds the door open. Get on the elevator. The person that held the door open did not know who I was, or didn't know who I was walking. But it was a man by the name of Jimmy Love. Jimmy Love was the HR director at the place that I had interned at, Channel 6. And standing next to Mr. Love was the new vice president and GM of the station I would end up working at. So I literally had an opportunity to do an elevator pitch in an elevator. Right?
And when you do those in Paige's class, do them seriously, because you may have to actually use it.
These are actual skills. Like, these are actual skills. I'm a living testament of that. And from that point on, I had an opportunity, even though I didn't get to do sports reporting the way I wanted to, I grew into something that was much, much, much better for me, which is leadership, and executive leadership at that. So, fail fast, learn where you're messing up at, and then improve on that. Because you don't have to live under the same stronghold that I did, where we had to be perfect. If my tie was messed up, Phil Berman let me know. Is Phil still around?
No, Phil's not here, he retired.
Yeah, you know, Mr. Heifetz, Susie Smith, and like all these, like Dr. Maria, Dr. used to kill my assignments. Mark my stuff, man, please.
I brought him back to speak.
You brought me, but this doesn't mean you don't try your best. This means that you need to get your best out as soon as possible and figure out how you can tweak your best so you can move. So, those are the only two things I really wanted to share, just that were on my mind. Dr. Miranda says you guys have a ton of questions, and I want to make sure I don't take up too much of the time just yapping. So, I'll open the floor to y'all. Sure.
Hey, Rowan Elbert, you mentioned going to Ben Davis High School, great program there.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn that you still take with you today?
Yeah, so I learned under the tutelage of Dennis Goins, who was the teacher there. Mr. Goins went to Ball State, I think.
Yeah, Dennis went here, and also something that he may not know, before he ever got here, Dennis had already contacted me and said, keep your eye open for Bradley Gray and Ebony Chappelle.
No, I didn't know that.
Some of
Crazy
your
guys.
high school teachers are promoting you and you don't even know it, and it
Yeah.
sticks in the minds of faculty members when you
Yeah.
get here.
But to answer your question, the thing that I brought with me from Ben Davis, Mr. Goins has a saying, or a mantra: diligence, discipline, and effort. Everything that I do has to have those three things. Everything that I'm a part of, I have to bring those with me. Being diligent in your work means having integrity. Being disciplined means don't half-ass it. Well, best effort too. But, you know, bringing your best, again, something bought from high school. So, great program.
When you had a very iconic quote that really stood out to me. Failing fast will help you succeed later in the future. So I know what doesn't work and what I need to do to succeed. When you mean by that quote, where did you get that from?
I don't know, it just came off the dome, to be honest with you.
Did having not getting 0 interviews inspire that quote, or have anything to do with why you have that quote in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really an amalgamation of everything, right? It's my life lessons. It's realizing that through experiences I've gone through, I really wish I would have taken chances on things much earlier in my life, right? I've lived a great life so far. I have 0 complaints about where I am and who I am and what I do. But I think that there are things that I could have done better if I would have taken the chance to just try, right? Like, what was the media critiques and analysis, which was the TCOM 204 class, one of my favorite classes here. We learned so much about critiques, and I am a movie and TV guy, and I love writing reviews and being snippy and just doing goofy stuff like that. And I always thought, damn, when TikTok came around, damn, why not do my reviews on the clock? I could have at least been doing something that I like, and I can still do it, right? Still, like I said, you can always get to it, but once it started, why didn't I just jump on that, right? And then I was afraid that, it's only gonna get a couple views, it's only gonna get a couple likes. So I talked myself out of it, and I let other people do it. Now everybody else is big, and they stink, and I'm I'm better than that person. I could did that, whatever. And so, it's that. It's the idea that you have to, you have to be self-aware, man. That's, if you're not always just challenging the things that you've done, you're not challenging the thought processes that you've gone through and why you did different things, you're not going to grow. So that's kind of where I got that from. That's where that whole mindset comes from. So.
Yeah, my name's Sam Klug. I'm a freshman here. Would you talk a little bit more about your job right now, where you're at, and kind of what your whole job title entails?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the Director of Innovation at WTHR. The Director of Innovation is a role that was created for me. It was a position that did not exist before I got there. It is a position that has a lot of leeway, a lot of latitude. It's about building the culture. I am a culture builder. So that is, I lead our executive producers and our producers. I work very closely with our production staff on like the aesthetic of the show, what it looks like, how things go. Very big on the writing. But the one thing that I sold myself on when I got to 13, or even during my interview, there were two things. I told them when I was sitting in the news director's office at the time. He was asking me about why, they should hire me for whatever this position was going to be. And I told him, I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You look out this window. So we're at 10th Meridian. Anybody from Indianapolis? Indy, kind of. Man, y'all not from Indiana? Where y'all from?
Chicago.
That's Indy.
Yeah.
That's Indy too. Okay, y'all are Indy Metro. Got you. So some of y'all are Indy Metro.
Message though, Brad.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing. I'm listening.
This is not.
Oh no, fish. I know all about Fisher, right? It's 70 and sunny in Fisher every day. No. So when I went to the interview, two things. The first thing I told him at 10th Meridian. So at 16th Meridian, there's a hospital, Methodist hospital. And I pointed to that hospital. I pointed up to a window. I said, that window is where I was born. I don't know if that's the window, but that's where I'm born. My city. This is my city, right? Nobody's going to tell me anything about the city that I'm born and raised in better than me. I love this city. I love this place. That's why I wanted to come back. So nobody was going to express Indianapolis better than me. And so when I said this is my city, I took the Dwayne Wade thing when he jumped up on the thing. This is my city. Yeah, that's what I did. I didn't jump on, I jumped on the thing. Yeah, this is my city, right? So yeah, that's how I ended up in the job. I also currently am, since I don't have a morning show executive producer, I'm executive producing our morning show. So I've actually been up since midnight and came here after work to come hang out with y'all and come talk to y'all. I'm going to crash super hard right now. But that's a part of my job duties, right? When you don't have roles filled, you kind of got to fill in. You got to do different things. You got to handle double duty. Like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like that's kind of what that comes down to. So.
You said earlier that those that do something first set the market. What is the project as the director of innovation that you've backed that WTHR has set the market on?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a couple of different things that we've done since I've been there. The one thing that I'd say we set the market on, we created a new series called Project Insight, and we did this series for a year called In Lawrence, where we went into a community for an entire year and we were just going to tell their stories. We had realized that one of the things that really frustrated our viewers about watching the news is that there's just sometimes a lot of crime. You only balloon in when somebody gets shot and then you leave right back out, right? So we wanted to make a conscious effort to showcase everything that's happening in that community. Good, bad, ugly, sweet, whatever. Hey, this new bakery that's opening is, Asian owned and it's AAPI month. Like, let's go do that story. Hey, have you been to this place that does this? Hey, they just had 4 people that were stabbed here. We obviously are going to cover the stabbing, but like, how do we cover the solution to said story? So In Lawrence was something that we did for a year, done by Dustin Grove. He pretty much was our host and producer of that. Hoping it's going to be Emmy nominated coming up. It set the market because we watched other stations then follow in that, right? We watched other stations try to do similar things. We watched similar stations try to copy. We have what's called a run-up map. It's a graphic that you use to kind of showcase if you're looking at the 92 counties in Indiana. If we're ever covering anything outside of Indianapolis and Marion County, we would pop a run-up map if we were in, I don't want to use Hamilton, like Rush County. Right, like we're live there, it would pop up, Rush County and show the person in there or whatever, and we start seeing other people do it. So setting the market to me, that's what that means. Also setting the market as far as finances go, that's a little bit above my pay grade, but I know that we have been made, it's been made known that THR, for those of you who will be looking at jobs at any point in time, if you want to do news, THR is going to pay you the best. So that's setting the market too.
I forgot to introduce my name. My name is Grant Godwin, and I was wondering, when did you start getting passionate about news in your lifetime?
Oof. I was passionate about media at a very, very young age. News, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what turned that on, but it's when I realized I was good at it. Maybe that's what it is. When I realized I was good at news, I was like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm in there. So maybe it was when I got my first job at Channel 6 that I realized, okay, this is something I can do, because I was messing up royally when I first started. I was doing stuff that you cannot do. I was missing stuff because I was on the assignment desk. We had, there would be like sirens, gunshots going off. I'd be like, are we supposed to go to that? Like, what you know what I mean? And I got my little yells at and stuff like that. And it's not that I was bad per se. It was just that I didn't have I was just excited to be there, and I didn't understand work ethic yet. Even though I had the skills to understand work ethic, I was a kid. I'm still 23, 20. I'm just happy to be here at that point. So it probably wasn't until I was about 25, 26 years old, so about 10 years ago, that I really picked up, like, yeah, I can do this, and I can do this really, really well. So,
my name's Alexia Bird. I wanted to ask about your struggles after graduating college, because you said you worked retail a bit before you actually got into the industry, and so you could explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the poo job market that I went into and trying to send out all those tapes, I probably went, if I graduated in May, I cried in my one mirror apartment for about 2 months. I moved back home about August. So about August, September is when I started working at HH Greg, and I moved, right to my mom's crib. I found an affinity for Law and Order SVU because that was the only thing I was watching on Tuesdays. I don't know. I was super. I'm very like dramatic. You know what I mean? So like I took that job and I was like, I guess this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I don't know. I just got into this mood that I was stuck. And there's nothing, and there's money to be made in sales. Obviously, sales is where all the money is to be made, actually. So like, if I had known that and like broadened my skills, I actually think I would have maybe been in like a general manager position now or vice president position now if I had like really honed in those skills. But I would just say that those struggles were really hard because I was also watching a lot of my friends at the time that had graduated in different, with different degrees that were moving right into it. Now, my TCOM friends, we all felt the same. It was hard for all of us. But everybody else, hey, I got a job over at this place. Oh, I'm in public health over at this place. And and I'm slanging TV. So, it was hard. And I'd stopped applying. I stopped applying for jobs for months, and really, if it was not for that chance encounter, who knows? Who knows what would have happened? So,
Alex Jackson, you've hit on some notable names so far, but I was wondering, who was your biggest mentor once you got to?
Biggest mentor. Biggest as in like.
Most influential.
Most influential. Okay, yeah. Because it was say I don't know if it was like name drop some people. No, not at all. I mean, Mr. Goins is probably up there. My high school teacher, just because he's such a stalwart, and I've never met a man more respected. Every room he walks into, I think, is his to own. Other people in the industry, I would say there are a couple sports reporters that I'm really close with. Jason Spells, who used to be at THR, used to be RTV with me. He did some like play-by-play stuff, some studio work in New York and stuff like that. Now, not necessarily, he had a show on Prime too for a little bit. But Monty Jones was a big one for a little while. He used to be at ESPN, now he's got his own podcast. But like, there are a lot of people who, everybody kind of like imprints. But the one thing I will say that I've learned in having mentors is that their journey is not my journey. And the things they got to do is not the journey I'm going to be able to take. So.
Casey Alexander, you mentioned hosting at Newslink. Has anything translated from your in front of the camera skills to behind the camera in production?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, once you get an opportunity to do Newslink, you learn the ins and outs of everything. So like you had to know what as a anchor, I had to understand talent reads, and so that helps me out as a producer a lot. It helped me have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for the people that I manage that are on air, and then I have a lot of empathy for the people that I manage that are producers and production assistants, because everybody's trying their best. So I would say that those would be the main things, is that you know it's empathy across the board. You know.
My question to you is, how big of an impact did your parents make in your life to be able to make you the person that you are today?
Yeah, a lot. Mom and dad were supportive. Mom definitely supportive. It's weird because like they're like two church mouses. Like they don't talk, and I talk all the time. So it's it's ironic, but yeah, they were very, very supportive.
Aiden McNally, sophomore. You mentioned earlier that you were very passionate about media as a kid. Was there a specific moment when you realized that, and what did you do in that early life to act on that interest?
So the church camp that I was in, this was like me and like my pastor's son, who's a little bit older than me, who also went to Ball State and graduated. We used to have like this 12-week camp, 8 to 12-week camp, and we shoot PSAs, but then there were times when we got a little advanced and we started doing like real movies. So he had this really dumb role. Please don't laugh at these names. He was super scared because he liked to skateboard and stuff like that, and my name was the Ghetto Bird. Now, don't ask why it's the Ghetto Bird. It's a stupid name, but we were superheroes, Super Skater and the Ghetto Bird. We used to make these movies of us riding around the church and doing stupid stuff to save from different, and like, I loved it. I loved editing. I loved the storyboard aspect. I loved just putting all that stuff together. So I was like, yeah, this is it. So yeah.
All right, Rowan Elbert. I wanted to ask you. You went to go back and teach at Ben Davis. What inspired you to go into teaching and then again back into the industry after that?
You want the honest answer?
Yes.
I had a girlfriend at the time who did not like that I worked overnights. And I wanted to appease a girlfriend that did not like that I worked overnights. We were no longer together. Why did I leave? I do not like children. I don't like kids. I absolutely not. I respect you so much. I will never teach you. I have never had to body slam so many people in my life. Okay? I despised. It's the best. It's the best experience of my life, but it's also like y'all are terrible in high school. I'm so sorry, but no, it was a good experience. It was. I appreciate that they gave me the opportunity to do it, but I think it was pretty well known, pretty quick that teaching is not my strongest suit. So maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I was just too young.
My name's Addison Mullins. What inspired you to like come to Ball State? Like, what was like the big pointer to come here?
Proximity. It was close. The programs were great. A lot of my friends were coming here. My best friend was my roommate. We was just mobbing up here from the west side. Like I liked the fact that it still felt like home up here, and I was able to do this. Dr. Murray doesn't know this. Ball State wasn't my first choice. I had been accepted to Syracuse, and it was just too expensive. And who knows what was going to happen there. So,
if any of you get accepted at Syracuse as much as I like getting my checks due cashier at Ball State, go to Syracuse.
Go to Syracuse. Yeah, go to Syracuse. Newhouse School of Communication, one of the best in the nation.
My name's Addie Urban. So did you ever feel like at a time when you were working that you still want to do more? You ever get burned out?
Yeah, every day. Felt that way today. Work is hard. Stay in school, kids, as long as possible. Professional students, if you can. No, somebody will pay for it. No, everybody will be burnt out. No matter what you decide to do, you're going to reach a point where you are going to get burnt out. It's going to be incredibly important as you grow to understand boundaries. And I think that you guys as a generation understand that much better than what we do, because y'all will surely tell somebody, I'm out, in a heartbeat, right? So, yeah, it is important to understand your boundaries, understand where you can and can't go, taking your PTO when you can. That's probably one of my biggest things. I work hard, and I've never learned the boundary of not working hard, of not going hard. Like the Royal Rumble is on Saturday, right? And I'm super excited. I'm going to be able to cover it. I love wrestling. I grew up a wrestling fan, you know. So, and I spearheaded our coverage of the Royal Rumble. So that means this week for me is extremely busy of trying to make sure everything goes off without a hitch, and then being able to cover on Saturday. But it's also the same week that Emmys are due, which is my responsibility. It's also the week that reviews are due, so I have to finish those up. So like the amount of work that you're putting in, if you don't take time to take breaks where you can, you know, you're going to put yourself in really, really, really tough situations. So.
Sam Klug, when you talk about all the stuff that's due, how do you strategically plan out your week? Like, putting aside time to work on separate things, I guess time management. How did you learn that, and like how do you put it into effect?
I learned trial by error, messing up, putting myself in positions where I was struggling. Please be better than me. Like learn the lesson of, you know, I don't have to touch the stove to know it's hot, right? Like it's a situation where prioritizing, that's part of what leadership is learning how to prioritize, knowing what's, is the count right on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I put more markers over here if you need a different set of colors.
Appreciate it. I'm sorry for whoever's text that is.
No, they should have erased it anyway.
It's all good. Anybody ever heard of the Eisenhower matrix? Okay, so there's this saying that says things that are important are very seldom urgent, and things that are urgent are very seldom important, right? So there's this box that I use to decide how I'm going to prioritize things, right? So all right, so if we go important, and then we go not important, and then we go urgent, not urgent. All right, so you start to facilitate things into these boxes to make it work for you, right? So things that are important and urgent. The most important and urgent thing I need for the day is something that I do. Something that's super important but not urgent is something that I plan. Something that is urgent but not important, I'm going to delegate to somebody else. That's your job now. And something that's not important and not urgent, delete. Get out the way. So this helps me with my organization here, to make sure that whatever is deemed the most important and urgent thing, I have to do that first. For this week, it would absolutely be the Royal Rumble. The reviews, important, not urgent, especially because I knew about it. I knew reviews were coming up. Same thing with the Emmys. I know those things are coming up. Matter of fact, with the Emmys, kind of delegated. You know what I mean? Hey, EPs, have fun with that, right? And then things that are not important and not urgent, just forget about it, delete, whatever. So this is a really good, like if you're ever in the midst of an 18 credit hour semester and you need to figure out different, I think this is a great, template to kind of figure out how you want to do things. So I'll leave that up there.
And you really should copy that. coming here was urgent. I remembered his schedule from last year, and I knew that he might have to do the morning show before he came in. I thought, well, I still want him to come speak, so I'm just gonna see where I fall on his schedule.
We'll go you and the you.
My name's Andy Zelaya. You talked about how you set the market for like creating a series that bases like more on the community. What was pitching that and the process of pitching that like?
That's a great question. It took collaboration. It took finding somebody that saw my vision and saw I shouldn't say my vision, the vision, because it's not my. If we all feel the same way, it's no one's idea. It's a shared common interest that we need to then work together to make sure that we're intentional about what we're going to do. So there was a guy who is my mortal enemy because he went to Warren Central High School, but we had the same love for Indianapolis. And we came up with this idea of, look, man, we've got to tell stories differently. You went to Warren, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I can feel it. So, being able to put together this project was more of a labor of love of two people that have grown and watched media get our story wrong. So we wanted to see it be told in the correct way. And that's how we collaborated. And then we took that and we brought it to our department heads. We said, look, this is how we want to do it. This is what we want to do. We bought research. We spent time looking at, hey, what are the fastest growing communities in the metro area? What are the communities that have the most diverse population? What are the communities that have the most intense issues? And we put all of that together in a presentation, sold that thing, and then, a year later, even though we aren't doing the project the same way anymore, hopefully it's, an Emmy nominated or Emmy award winning project. So, we'll see.
So my name is Abby, I'm a sophomore. Do you see a point where there won't be a job in news or that a department won't exist? I know that some stations are already laying off and moving things around. Oh yeah, we just lost our marketing departments not last Friday, the Friday before. They consolidated the departments to be something different. I mean, it's different. Layoffs, although extremely tough and sad, are kind of a part of the industry and have always been a part of the industry. Do I see? I don't know if we're going to see job creation the way that we used to, but I definitely think we're going to see a place where skills just get transferred to another type of job. So where everybody may be, traditional reporters now, like, hey, everybody's going to be this type or whatever. Everybody's a creator now. Maybe we even change the names, right? Like we went from traditional reporter to MSJ anyway. That's, multi-skill journalist or multimedia journalist, one-man band, whatever you want to say. And then less than 20 years later, now we're looking at creator, right? Show producer, title might just be producer director, producer editor, / That's something that I think you guys have kind of picked up on, like, really, really well as a generation. And I hate to speak in generalities, but like y'all have multiple things. Like, does anybody have like multiple things they want to do in their life? And like that kind of is the case. Like, I have only ever wanted to do this, right? Kind of pigeonholes you. So to an extent, I can move around, but it doesn't come without maybe taking a step back to learn a new something and then going, to where I am now. So,
what was that project called again?
It's called Project Insight, and the Insight, IN, capital IN, and then SIGHT.
For Channel 6 is called Inside Indy.
Inside, right? Inside Indy.
They
right.
just copied his idea.
And then, and so our project on THR, if you want to look at it, is it's in Lawrence, IN Lawrence.
You kind of touched on Josh Gabbard, by the way. Ideas coming out and you not pursuing them. Do you have an example of one of those that, like the TikTok example?
Yeah.
You had and just didn't pursue.
Yeah. Another one, podcast. Sometimes you let the public narrative kind of change it. Everybody's like, we got enough podcasts, we need more, whatever the joke was. you kind of let that sway you a little bit. Like I didn't want to jump again. The things that I like, I love sports. I like wrestling. I like media in general. Like I have a opinion to share that I think might be prevalent to people, right? But in my mind, I'm stuck on looking at all the negative feedback that you see, because the world is plentiful of negative feedback. I'm looking at all the negative feedback. I'm like, I'm good where I'm at. I'm cush, right? And so when you think about it like that, it's like, man, if I would have thought about it in a more proactive or more confident way, I think I really could have put some things together. So, yeah. Anything else, guys?
You mentioned earlier you're big on building culture where you work. Was that something that was that a skill you obtained with your job opening as director of innovation, or is that something you always had?
Yeah, I think being a culture builder is an innate skill, and it's something that's exemplified in the job and gives opportunities. I think a perfect example would be I bought a championship belt. I walk around with my belt, for the Royal Rumble. I tell everybody to acknowledge me as I walk through. So, and here's the thing. I might be the only one that gets it. It might be one other person in the newsroom that gets it. However, once it catches on, it just caught on. Now, you walk into the room and the ones go up, right? Like that's what it's like. You gotta walk in that truth. You gotta, I'm a nerd about things. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna walk in being that and being goofy and not being so serious. News is a very serious, stuffy. Everybody's dressed up in shirts and ties and stuff. I'm like, people don't wear shirts and ties, man. Like you can get on TV with a turtleneck on, or pull your chain out. Like I don't know, like do something different. Because at the end of the day, like it looks stuffy, right? It looks stuffy when you see somebody in a shirt and a tie, and like that's good for an interview. Don't get me wrong. We're not interviewing. You're not on an interview here. The whole point of news and what you guys get is that you're just talking to each other. You're just talking to the audience. That's what makes the other stuff work. It's authentic. And if I come up and I'm very stiff, nobody's paying attention to that anymore. So.
My name was Addison again. Do you see news as being like obsolete by the time we graduate? And do you think like social media and TikTok and stuff like that will like ruin it maybe?
The latter part, somewhat. News can never be obsolete, because where do you think TikTok and social media is going to get their content? You'll never be able to get rid of news, because your favorite creator does not create. They only imitate. They only replicate. They only duplicate. We create the content. Barstool Sports, love them, whatever, cannot create content. I mean, they talk about content, but like they don't create news. They're not journalists. They're not in locker rooms. Pat McAfee show only reports on what reporters are reporting on, right? Like that is the point of the show. I'm hearing that, y'all know how Pat talks. Hearing that this is happening, and it's like, yes, you heard that through a reporter. Oh, still got a job. Media, news is not going anywhere. As long as there's news to tell, the industry will still live. Will it look the same? No, but it will always be around.
Hey, Rowan Elbert, at this point in your career, what's a long-term goal for you?
I love that question. I want to keep the streak going. And the streak is every job I've had since I left teaching was a job that did not exist before I got there. And I believe that if I'm going to continue to work for other people and not work for myself, I need things to be created for me, because I believe that my talent and whatever I'm offering is not confined to whatever the role is that I'm getting. I love the idea that I have, and I have an opportunity to build what I want to build, which comes with its own issues, right? It's hard to hold that person accountable, then it's also hard to know if you're meeting the expectations too. It comes with its own issues. However, I personally believe that being able to say that I'm the first of this, I'm setting the market for this, That job in Atlanta did not exist. It did not. I was the first hire of the position. Hey, we're trying out this test, whatever. We want you to do this. They can't replicate what I did because of my very specific skills. No matter who else you bring into that position, I shouldn't say no matter who. Somebody else can have skills. They're going to have different skills. I'm not saying someone can't be better, but you can't replicate what I was. And that's what I loved about having that position. When I went to Chicago, same thing. Nobody can replicate what I had. Here in Indianapolis, nobody can replicate what I had. So that's how I walk into every job and every potential interview, is that there's no design, there's no playbook. You can't write to me, if that makes sense. And I hope to continue that. I hope to continue to learn, to grow, so that that's the case everywhere I go.
With everything that you've been through in life, and not being able to, working in all these different news stations and everything like that, and the mistakes that you made going along with it, how'd you learn from those mistakes, and what do you take away from those mistakes as well to get to where you are today?
Yeah. I think it just kind of goes back to failing fast. Try and fail fast. I think learn where your boundaries are. I learned that I'm very externally driven, kind of a people pleaser.
Really?
Kind of a people pleaser. I had to learn that real early. Again, I switched my. Y'all heard how passionate I am about media, right? So just imagine what that's like to switch your career for love interest. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that, okay? If you have a passion, your love will follow you where that passion's going, right? Like, you're not gonna have to pick and choose. And I'm definitely not a bad person for that. If this goes on the internet, I'm not saying you're a bad person. But yeah, just fail fast, man.
You were gonna touch in on being ambitious. Oh, can I ask a question?
Well, you already did.
Okay. When it comes to you touching on like being ambitious and a new project ideas, when it comes to that, a lot of people are sometimes feeling, oh, what are other people going to think? Either my colleagues or the public. What's kind of one piece of advice you give to someone who has an idea, wants to pitch it, but it seems ambitious?
Man, I don't want to cuss.
It's okay.
Yeah, you guys are F. Like, that's number one. That has to be in your mind. Like, fuck. Like, I am doing what I'm doing. This is how I want to do it, where I want to do it, whatever. Because what one man won't, another man will. And I'll leave y'all with a very, very quick story. I had a boss, an executive producer in Chicago, who was just a dick. And he was terrible to me, and I tried to be good to that man. That man was never good to me. And I remember one time we had this issue. I'm not gonna call it miscommunication. I'll take blame for like what was my fault, but his response was really, really bad. He got upset, hit a wall on his way out. I was like, okay, all right, man. So somebody else, I'm not going to HR. I'll meet you outside. I'm not going to HR. But somebody went to HR, so we had to do the HR investigation. Got me involved. I was like, look, I ain't see nothing, I ain't say nothing, whatever. Come time to my review, this man, like, again, he really, really despised me. Gave me all ones on my reviews, right? Like, just not a good person. He was not a good person with me. And I am putting forth, like, really good content. Everybody else sees me as an exemplary guy. This guy just does not. He does not see my value, right? So I reach out to my friend back in Tegna. This is how I get my job in Indianapolis. They're like, hey, we have an EP job in Cleveland. We have this role that might be opening up in Indianapolis. I'm like, oh yeah, get me home. Fly, get the job, whatever. Director of Innovation, great title. Senior management title, right? 6 weeks after, like, I haven't even left Chicago yet. That EP gets shown the door, right? Not only does it get shown the door, I get a call from the Techno recruiter. My station is part of Techno. Techno recruiter was like, hey, Brett, we have this guy that applied for a job. They said, do you know a guy by the name of his name? I said, how much time you got? You never know. You never know who you're going to need at some point. You have to treat people well. That man will never work at Techno, from what I said. And it's not because I don't like, it's not because I hold anything against him. It's because I told the truth. I'm always going to tell the truth about how somebody is. So when I say that you got to say F them, that's what I mean. Because people are going to look out for themselves in that regard. He thought that was going to save them. It did not. So always be careful of how you talk to people. But please, please, please walk in your confidence, walk in your strengths, walk into the things that you know you're good at so that you can succeed. Anything else?
That was a great story. I just want you to do one thing, since I know I only have a minute left, actually 30 seconds, and time is money. Would you give my female students a word of advice so that they can help promote themselves? I have a problem in this course with women backing off, since it says news and sports. It's like, it's mostly guys in here, they're gonna get the sports jobs. Would you tell them something that they need to know or do as they go into the job?
Look up a young lady by the name of Maria Martin. She's a reporter in Atlanta, WXIA. She's a sports reporter. Small, but mighty, right? Strong-willed. Steps into any room, owns whatever room. You have to. It's more important for you as a woman to feel confident in what you're asking, and don't let anybody make you feel that your question is too niche or too specific or too whatever. Like you belong in every room that you're going to be walking into. Your questions are the questions that somebody else wants answered. And that's who you're writing for, that's who you're reporting for. You're not reporting for the masses, you're writing for the person that wants to hear that question answered. So if you take that into whatever press conference, whatever it is, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, Streets is talking, this is what they say, this is what you're hearing. You're getting that person's question answered, and they're gonna remember you for that. So walk in boldness, that's what I would say.